Hey everyone, what's up? So if you're watching this, you probably got a JET interview. And if you did, congratulations! Woo! And now starts the 2 to 3 week waiting period of just incredible anxiety and interview stress. But fear not, I'm here to help. So without further ado, these are my 12 tips for your JET interview. So tip number 1. Everyone tells you that the Japanese portion of the interview will come at the end. However, mine came at the very beginning. I walked in and they said hello and I said hello. Then the guy was like konnichiwa and I said konnichiwa, and that's how my whole Japanese portion started at the very beginning. It threw me off like crazy. So just be prepared that your Japanese portion might not come at the end, it might come at the very beginning. Tip number 2. The interviewers know that you're nervous, so having a little bit of nerves will not count against you. If you're not able to say anything because you're so nervous, that will count against you. So just be sure to kind of try to relax right before your interview. That's so hard to do, but just take a deep breath and whatever happens, happens. All right, tip number 3. This goes for every interview you'll ever have in your life, but as soon as you walk through the door, be on your best behavior because they're watching you. Yeah, that's really it for this tip. Tip number 4. In the waiting area, there will more than likely be a JET alumni there to talk to you about the JET program and everything like that. Make sure you talk to this person because I have no hard evidence to back this up, but I am almost certain that if they're on the fence about you or another person, they might ask the JET alumni, oh, how was this person talking in the lobby? Were they personable? Were they crazy nervous? What about them stood out, to make their final decision? That might not be true, but I feel like I have a hunch that it is true. Okay, next one. Number 5, probably one of the most important tips I'm going to tell you. If you got an interview, that means they are interested in hiring you. So you should really approach it as if you've already gotten the job. Maybe I'm just gonna have this as a note, but even if you don't get this job, it's not the end of the world, and it also might not mean that your interview went poorly. It might just be that there were a lot of very, very competitive applicants that year, and they can only take so many people. All right, tip number 6. This is a very, very, very important tip. Make sure you know your application and your SOP inside out, upside down, backwards and forwards, because they will probably pull a lot of their interview questions from your application. I was actually asked extensively about the places I requested to go to be placed in JET, and that was probably 2 or 3 questions for my interview. So make sure you know why you put those places. And tip number 7, I found a list of 100 common JET interview questions, and I'm not telling you to go through and answer every single question with extreme detail in your own time. I'm just saying you should probably read through the questions and think of how you would answer them, because you don't want to have an incredibly long pause during your interview with you trying to think of an answer to the question. So just go through these questions and think oh, how would I answer that if that was asked to me? So you just have an answer kind of prepared in the back of your mind, or just an idea of how you would answer the question. Right, tip number 8. There will probably be 1 or 2 uncomfortable questions they will ask you. These questions are specifically formatted to throw you off, make you a little bit uncomfortable, just so they see how you would act in a situation like that. Because you will probably get asked kind of uncomfortable questions. For me, since I'm American, I was asked about Pearl Harbor and Hiroshima, so I had to answer those questions. So make sure you know a little bit about America's history with Japan if you're American, and just maybe a couple of world events that have to do with Japan, because they might ask you about current events in Japan as well. Okay, tip number 9. Have an idea of an interesting topic you would teach your students, because I was actually asked that question and I didn't have anything prepared in my mind, so I just went straight to homecoming for whatever reason. I don't know why, but that was where my brain went. And it wasn't really a mock lesson type thing. I didn't have a mock lesson. They just asked me what I would want to teach my students if I had like an opportunity to. And that was my option. Please pick a better option. Unless you really love homecoming, then like go for it. Tip number 10. If you have enough time to ask questions, I would have a couple questions prepared. You might not have time in your interview, so I would maybe ask these to the jet in the waiting room, the alumni jet in the waiting room. My 3 questions I had prepared were, how did you establish rapport with your JTEs? How did you adapt to the difference in work culture? And if you could go back and do jet again, what would you do differently? But those were my questions. You might have different questions you want to ask. Tip number 11. If you don't have any experience living in Japan or any experience living abroad, you should have a really good explanation as to why you think you would be okay living abroad. Because they're really looking for someone that they know won't panic and like go back home as soon as like the culture, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my god, the word escaped me. I'll like put it in there, like maybe as like a note right here. But as soon as that hits, they don't want you to panic and like go home like immediately after that. So they're looking for someone that they know will be okay living in a foreign country. Like if you have experience living in like the countryside of a foreign country, that's even better for you. And my last tip number 12. This will probably be the most relaxed interview you'll ever have in your life. So just kind of try to have fun with it. I know that's hard to think about during an interview, but in my interview, I laughed with my interviewers. They laughed at me, I laughed with them. It's really more of a personality assessment than it is a standard interview. So they're just trying to look for someone that's comfortable to like work with. So think of this more as like a personality assessment again, rather than a standard interview, because it is not your standard interview for certain. And just to make you feel a little bit better, I thought my interview went terribly, but I still got here. So even if you think at the time yours went absolutely horrible, and I thought mine went horrible, it probably didn't go as bad as your brain's telling you it went. So just try to take it one day at a time. Yeah, and that's all the tips I have for you today. So if you happen to have any more questions, feel free to like either message me on Instagram or just leave a comment down below. I'll try to answer as many as I can. And if you have anything else you want me to talk about having to do with jet, just leave it down in the comments below. Alright, see you next time. Bye!